welcome everybody to the House Monk Summit. And this session is going to be around from space to experience community management. And we're going to dig deep into what community means, how to create it, and how to apply it to different verticals. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm going to be the moderator today. My name is Guy. I'm really honored to be here. The reason why I'm one of the facilitators for this meeting is because I'm personally passionate about community and co-living. Currently the director of CoLive, which is a global nonprofit association for co-living professionals, which is also one of the partners of the Hausmann, which we're really honored of. And also co-founder of a magazine called Co-Living Insights that Matt Lesniak here on this call is another co-founder of, as well as the founder of Art of Co-Living, which is going to be an upcoming book on how to create co-living spaces. And so today, the big honor lies in the three amazing heroes that we have on this call, starting with, on my left at least, Rachel Rickwell, who's the member experience manager at Hamlet, so to say the hero of every experiences that co-living members go through. Hamlet is a large co-living operator, mostly in Southeast Asia. We're also having Matt Lesniak, who is the co-founder of Conscious Co-Living, a consultancy that focuses mostly on community and sustainability, and one of the experts in that field. And another really big honor to have Jeevan Mello, who is the CEO of Senesit Corp, who has been quoted as the father of community management in the Middle East, working on huge projects, including Burj Khalifa, and having created tons of communities. So thank you all for being here. And so to start with, I'd love you three to introduce yourself, just really quick, what you do in your day-to-day life, where you do it and why you do it. Maybe we can start with Rachel and then Matt and Jeevan in the same order as I did before.
Always ladies first, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. My name's Rachel. I work for Hamlet. I take care of the member experiences and all of our community development. So why do I do it? Because this is my passion. I am a people person by nature. I chat a lot, and I think community and member experience all comes down to making sure you can have conversations and listen to people.
Matt, what about you?
So my day-to-day is mostly working with clients, co-living via Conscious Co-Living, and then also producing and editing content via Co-Living Insights, the media platform that Guy mentioned earlier on. And why do I do what I do? Why am I so passionate about community? I think I've also always had a passion about community development. I also studied sustainable urbanism and looking into how to involve citizen participation and more participatory methods in the city making process. So that's where my interest in community building came from. And then co-living fell nicely into my lap, and I've been trying to build communities for co-living operators since, so or supporting co-living operators to do so.
Amazing, thank you. And Jeevan, would love to hear about you. You've been probably like the one that has been like the longest in this field of community building.
I call myself a business transformation specialist, and essentially what I do is that my clients are all real estate developers and managers who have large communities, and I go there to transform them from just being a real estate space to something that has a lot of customer experience. People really enjoy living there with their lifestyle and sharing, caring with everyone. So some of the communities right now I'm managing is the Palm. You can actually see it from space. So I'm managing some amazing real estate communities. And what I really find interesting is it's all about co-living, maybe not the co-living that people traditionally understand. It's people living together in the same community. They own their own properties, but they all live together and they share common amenities. And I'm really passionate about that. And just like Rachel said, I love meeting people. I love dealing with customers. And traditionally, a lot of people have thought that real estate and customer experience is different, but actually it's very, very interlinked.
Totally, it is very interlinked. And actually, regarding community management, I think that's like one of the first questions that we want to bring up today. Community management it's an old term, and even the term community has been existing for years. So when we think a lot about community management, a lot is also like about online community management. It's been like a lot of an operational role, usually also including like really day-to-day operations in the building. And so I'm really curious, let's start with you, Jivan, because you've been in the scene for a long time. What do you think is the switch right now between how has the term evolved and its significance?
You
and
see,
what's expected from a community manager today?
I think traditionally a lot of people have looked at real estate as purely a technical job. And they often say, I'm a facilities manager. My job is just to maintain the communities, make sure that the elevators are working, that the water temperature is okay, making sure it's safe, and so on and so forth. So people have traditionally looked at this role as purely technical or operational. But slowly, it's moving to a more community role. Safety is important, security, of course, maintenance is very critical, but so are the social aspects in terms of well-being, recreation, lifestyle, education, infotainment. All those aspects have become very important, especially as a USP. So a lot of the developers who appoint me look at me and says, we have this real estate property, but we want to make it come alive. What do we need to do to make sure we have the traditional facilities and maintenance and stuff like that, but at the same time make it exciting, interesting, something attractive for people to come and live in? And what a lot of developers have realized is that just having a clean and a safe community doesn't attract buyers. They want to go into a community where they find the feeling of well-being, community spirit. So having a lot of events, spaces and opportunities, that has become a very attractive figure for many customers. And so developers are slowly taking on this community management as a very strategic part of their offering. And I think as we're moving along, that is what all the developers are doing.
Yes, and you mentioned something like that's very important here. You also said that like people are looking for a feeling of community.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious, for example, you, Rachel, and you're managing the experiences and spaces at Hamlet. What is your definition of community, and how do you implement that?
It's hard. Like, what is my definition of community? I have a very different take on it than what we traditionally have it. It's community to me. It's just about the engagement and the happiness that we can create and facilitate for people. And you don't have that unless you have your events and you have your social aspects and you have that interaction with people. And the community part is just incredibly important for any aspect. What G-Band does, I totally understand where you are at the moment with the Palm, because the selling point there is the restaurants and the bars and the social aspects downstairs. People and families live there because of what you're putting on as that extra bit. It's not just that cleanliness and that ease of service. It's what you can do as that extra step to bring people together. So for me, community really is all about finding different ways to bring people together. It doesn't really matter where you're from or what language you speak. It's just finding ways for everyone to connect and be back together and help each other along.
Regarding also, the ability to create this. So like coming back to the term community management, Matt and I, we just wrote a book called the Community Facilitator Handbook. And Matt, I'm really curious for you, why did you move away from the term community management to community facilitation?
So actually, I kind of want to play devil's advocate with you for a second and say that community management is not really an old term. And I think it's something that's quite new to us as a society. And I think it's almost a bit tragic or sad that we have to teach people how to build communities. I think it's something that's so instinctual, that has been for human history, that now that there's this kind of, wherever this disconnection, this crisis of connection that has occurred, I believe that it plays a big part in why we need to have community managers or community facilitators. But I always find it quite interesting that we do need community managers or community facilitators, whether that's in co-working or co-living or in business transformation, like you say, like Jeevan does, as community building should be something quite natural. Why did I go from community management to community facilitator? So this is something that we've discussed quite a lot between us, Guy, and also something that you push quite a lot for is communities in our opinion, can't really be managed, and it needs to be more of a grassroots engagement or a bottom-up engagement. So as a co-living operator or as a business or as any other kind of real estate developer or operator, we believe that it's more about facilitating communities and putting the right governance systems in place and putting the right processes in place to facilitate more of a bottom-up community feeling, a sense of community. So yeah, this distinction between management and facilitation is a bit nuanced, but it's really about creating more of a bottom-up type of community.
For our participants from India will know that, co-living is a fairly old concept, and it goes back to what we call the joint family system. In India, it is a very common thing that the father, mother, the sons, and their wives and their children would live in the same household. And there would be this common kitchen where, all the wives would come together and they would cook a meal for the entire family. So this joint family system, which was very, very prevalent, is of course now moving to a nuclear family system. But the benefits of this joint family systems are immense. And I can see that a lot of people actually thinking, it is better for us to live in a joint family system because we are a family, we share common ideas, common goals, and we actually bring down our cost to live together. So I can see that even though it's a very traditional thing and people have moved away from it, but there are people who are now looking back and saying, maybe that wasn't that bad an idea. And therefore the co-living thing becomes even more interesting.
Totally, and especially in certain cultures like Europe or the US, it is not common anymore to continue living with family. While it is different in Latin America, where it's still the case there, right? And so people are looking for that maybe now chosen family.
Exactly.
Slightly adapting to the same concept. You all talked about one thing that's I think is really crucial here in terms of community building, and that's engagement.
Right.
How to create something, a process that people come into your space, and regardless if it's a co-living facility, micro units, service apartments, tower, hotels, how do you create engagement with people? And so I'm really curious first to hear by Rachel, because you are working directly on one specific product, and then by Jeevan and Matt, like Rachel, how do you create engagement, and what is the one thing that you think sets you apart from anyone else?
For us, we have a high level of interaction. This is really, really important to us. And this kind of starts from the first impression that we like to give to people. We don't let people move in remotely. So we are always, except for in COVID times, we are always there from the very beginning, getting to know this member. We welcome them. We then touch base with them again a couple of weeks later, a month later, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months. We're always interacting and we're always engaging. And so this really helps us to make sure that we can kind of develop the community for this particular person and bring them in and around and amongst others who have similar aspects. So for us, it's really the engaging and the listening and the talking. And I'm very fortunate that I have quite a large team where we can provide this kind of service. A lot of co-living companies are startups. They don't have the ability or the manpower, but we do. And I think this is a really big part of it and why we can deliver and why we can listen and why we can engage, which is incredibly important. For us, we even host quarterly feedback sessions and catch-up sessions with our members to ensure that we're engaging and understanding.
I like that, and especially the fact that you're hosting those feedback sessions. For example, one thing can be done. I think there's also not a lot of other things in the whole user experience that can be done, right? Like as soon as you enter, listening to them, what is their needs, trying to understand a customer. So across the user journey, having different touch points. Jeevan, how do you do that, especially in a tower that hosts, I don't know how many thousand people?
10,000 people. So here's the interesting thing. Again, this is a fairly new concept. Traditional people thought, you buy a property or rent a property, you go and live in that building, you do your own stuff. All that the community management or the facilities management people do is maintain it like that, and they don't really interact with you. They only interact with you when you have a problem. A leaky faucet, something has fallen down, a step is broken. We've changed all that, and we are moving away from the typical maintenance part, but more into the management part of it. And we have a lot of programs, educational programs. Like, for example, in our residential community called Arabian Ranches, where I live myself, everybody has an independent villa and they live in it. But we have an annual competition called Arabian Ranches Has Talent. And so we ask all the kids to participate, and they can sing and they can dance and they can have sort of events. We have art classes, we have competition, we have bake a cake, make a garden. So for example, people who are living in single family home, they can have a backyard competition. We do all these things which are not traditionally associated with the management, but we've done these things because we believe this is what really people want. Okay, they know that you're going to maintain the community, they know you're going to keep it safe, but this is the reason why they want to live in this community, and this is the reason why their friends come and visit. And those friends who come and visit and participate in, they become your potential customers for the future. Because when they see all this good stuff, they say, you know what, I want to be part of this community because these people are having a great time. Regardless how expensive the home is, even the tallest tower in the world, people need people. They need to feel appreciated.
Maybe Matt, is there anything you want to add to this?
No, I just highlighted, I love the people need people. It's so true. Especially nowadays, like there is this really craving for connection and authentic connection. And in terms of your question, Guy, how to best create engagement, foster engagement, maintain engagement, because it needs to be created and fostered, but it also needs to be maintained throughout the different user journey points as you were discussing. I think the onboarding is definitely one of the most important steps in this user journey, and really creating the right guidelines, the right expectations from the get-go with residents on that engagement. So it really depends as a brand and as an operator to what extent you want to engage your members. And you can go a bit hands off, and it could be quite service heavy as an operator, or you can really do this kind of systemic approach, this bottom-up approach that I was discussing earlier. Put the expectation on your residents that they are here to contribute, they are here to engage, and they're create that sense of ownership within the community as well. It's a choice. It's a business strategy choice. It is, but I think in terms of how to create and maintain this engagement, it starts from onboarding process, and even before in the first point of contact, the move in, these initial steps.
I'm seeing this myself in the co-living scene, but also in the co-working and any type of actually hospitality. Community is becoming such a buzzword and everybody's using it. Like, we have amazing community here of like 300 people and or like whatever X amount of people. Now, it can also become something like that happened to the whole like environmental movement, which was greenwashing. And I sense that sometimes we're also entering the community washing area. And the question here is for you guys, what is the hard line where you're like, this is not a community?
Matt actually referenced it because I believe a community, one of the things that are very important is the governance of the community. In fact, in our real estate communities, we have a set of documents that we actually call governance documents. And these documents are really the rules and regulations of this community. And if someone keeps breaking those rules, that to me is a big no. All the residents of this space, whether it's the co-living as termed it, or the residential community concept where everybody actually owns their own space, you must adhere to the rules and regulations. Because if you don't do that, you actually destroy this whole sense that we're trying to create. So for me, that's a big no.
So here, because what would happen then is that you put a threat to emotional or physical safety.
Right.
And create by default a state in which people will not want to engage out of fear.
I've had to do that to some people before. It's, you can get a sense from someone when they start asking questions to you like, what if they're noisy? And what if I don't like that? And what if they're touching my things? And what are you going to do about that? And, they put it onto us, like, what are you going to do if people do something that I don't like? And, my question is always, what do you think co-living is? Or perhaps co-living isn't right for you, because we want you to be sharing items with each other. We want you to be engaging. We want you to have a bit of a party and invite each other. So I always put it back onto the person going, are you sure co-living's for you? Because this co-living is all about sharing and being open and having fun with each other. And if you need rules and boundaries and you need me or my team to enforce these boundaries, then this community environment is definitely not for you. It's really important that people understand what they're getting themselves into. And like Jivan said, you want people to not be kind of bringing some of those negative vibes with them. You want it to be fun and pleasant for everyone. And if they can't adhere to our rules as such, without putting rules on it, it's not going to work for them, and it's going to make it a miserable experience for others.
Matt, any thoughts on that?
So yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, if there's these onboarding processes that are missing, or these governance systems that are missing, that might be a red flag for me as well. It could be in the branding as well. It could be a sort of over branding, or kind of hyping a bit too much the community, and then the actual experience might be a bit different. And you can always tell, like, the proof is in the pudding. So if people are not happy with the experience, then they may go live elsewhere. They may go live in another co-living community. And you can also see it online now. You can see it on Facebook, you can see it on Instagram, you can see it on Google Review, and kind of read up on these things and see who's experiencing what. And I mean, you don't want to make a sort of generalization with one experience, but if you see 10, 15, 20 Google reviews that sort of say the same thing, then it could be a red flag in terms of community experience as well.
You